Welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Richmond. Maria Bartholdi here in the booth alongside Jacob Van Lunen, Jason Skosbo there on the left, Martin Dang on your right, both players at 12-2 playing for the top 8 here at GP Richmond. The players are underway. Jason is going to kick things off with a doomed dissenter. Martin Dang cycling his Desert Celadon.
A Doomed Dissenter, a very good way to use the -1/-1 counter cards. Also has great interactions with Bone Picker. If you're able to use those cards early, you can, kill your own Doomed Dissenter and then get to almost ritual out the Bone Picker.
And there we see Ronus's Monument coming down right on time, turn 3.
And this is exactly when you want it. When you have a Ronus's Monument in your opening hand, it often has the ability to win a game by itself. Now that Doomed Dissenter, that's just a paltry little 1/1 here, is likely going to be attacking for 3 or 5 on most of the coming turns. And Martin's going to have to get a really nice racing situation in play here if he wants to combat this, because blocking is no longer a reasonable option for him.
Martin Dang unable to provide a blocker at present, simply cycling that hieroglyphic illumination to draw a card. Jason, there's a card, Champion of Ronus, hitting the battlefield. If you exert it, you get to just put a creature from your hand onto the battlefield, and you know what? JVL, I know he's holding a Greater Sandworm.
Oh my goodness. So he's going to be able to drop a 7/7 onto the battlefield with this card on the following turn.
This is awesome.
And not only is he just going to be able to drop that 7/7 on the battlefield, but that 7/7 will also give one of his creatures +2/+2 and trample by entering the battlefield.
Oh, and I was going to say, unless Martin Dang plays a Trial of Zeal.
Yeah.
There it is.
He's very lucky he had that one in that spot.
Oh, man, that would have been cool, though. Trial of Zeal, of course, dealing 3 damage to creature or player. Still no blockers, though, available for Martin Dang.
Yeah, and I mean, as we've spoken about, the Ronus's Monument just makes blocking so hard, and the way you want to be playing defensively against that card is simply by killing creatures, which is really hard to do when the opposing player has a Doomed Dissenter, or just by racing them yourself.
Jason drops a Wasteland Scorpion, pumping up his Doomed Dissenter to a 3/3, hitting for another 3, dropping Martin Dang down to 13. Dang now on 5 lands. Minotaur Sure Shot is the play, 2/3 with reach, with Fire Breathing.
Yeah, so we're going to have to, see if Martin Dang can find his way back into this game. And Trial of Zeal is a good start. If he's able to find a Cartouche in the following turns, he could end up killing that Wasteland Scorpion. And Jason here stuck on 3 lands, so that bodes really well for Martin.
The Sure Shot is going to jump in front of the Dissenter, and Jason is going to push through a couple of damage and get a zombie.
So simply trading that Doomed Dissenter for a zombie
Oof.
there. But
Wander in Death.
Yeah, he did that so that he would have 2 creatures in his graveyard to raise dead with that Wander in Death. And what's really great about that for Jason here is that both those creatures are also going to be triggering his Ronus's Monument. So those creatures, even though they may not be overly powerful on their own, just coming down on the battlefield, they become very strong here.
Any creature is a +2/+2 trample.
Yeah.
In comes the Minotaur Sure Shot for Martin Dang, followed up by an Emberhorn Minotaur. It's a 4/3. You can exert it to give it +1/+1 in Menace. There, you can take a look at it on your screen.
Yeah, this is a great card, Emberhorn Minotaur. It's one of the best 4-drops you can have in an aggressive red strategy. It really is it makes combat difficult for the opponent. You can keep on attacking for 4, and then once they're in range, you can start exerting it. It often forces people to leave 2 creatures back on defense, which is great.
Look at this. We're going to get 2 pumps out of Ronus's Monument here as Channeler Initiate enters the battlefield along with Ronus, Champion of Ronus as well. So that Wasteland Scorpion pumped up, as is that mummy, or that zombie rather.
Yeah, and Ronus's Monument doing a lot of work here in making Jason's creatures less expensive in addition to outputting a ton of damage.
Martin Dang has got a couple of mana at his disposal, a few cards in hand.
Yeah, tapping mana in this spot, it looks like he may be thinking about a card like Winds of Rebuke. And he's got to make a decision of whether or not he wants to use that on the zombie, just killing it, or use it on the Wasteland Scorpion to get the death touch off the table. The problem with using it on the Wasteland Scorpion is that it gives Jason more triggers off of his Ronus Monument.
And there it is. You called it, JVL. Winds of Rebuke on the zombie creature token. Both players will mill 2. We see a Chefette monitor, another Doom Dissenter hit the bin for Jason. Martin Dang.
It looks like he actually hit a crop skirmisher,
Yeah,
which
he
is
did.
pretty great for him. It's a nice way to get added advantage out of your Winds of Rebuke. The one problem with that, though, is that he is so far behind at this point, and when things are trampling, 1 toughness creatures aren't very impressive.
All right. We had an attack there from Martin, Wasteland Scorpion. Oh, sorry, excuse me, from Jason. The Emberhorn Minotaur getting in the way.
Yeah, the Emberhorn Minotaur is still able to trade with that Scorpion, but Martin Dang still takes 1 damage there because of the trample granted by Ronus' Monument.
Martin down to 10, Jason on 18. Here's a very aggressive play
Wow.
from Martin Dang. In comes on Crop Crasher. In comes a Trial of Zeal, shooting down Champion of Ronus. That guy just cannot stay alive.
Yeah, he's kind of a flag bearer of sorts, where when you see a Champion of Ronus,
You're like, kill it!
I want that thing dead. I don't want a Greater Sandworm on the other side of the table.
Oh my god, Jason had several Greater Sandworms in his hand.
Yeah, his hand is just full of sand.
Oh, so sad. Right now, all he has to work with is a Channeler Initiate, which is currently an 0-1. Can ramp him, though, which he is a little land light considering that he's got those 7/7s for 7 in his hand. He can cycle them away.
Yeah, the one problem with ramping with the Channeler Initiate right now is that by tapping it to, get mana, you're not using the trigger off the Ronus' Monument. And Jason was really hoping to use the Ronus' Monument to just run over Martin here, but Martin had something to say about it with Winds of Rebuke and a pair of Trial of Zeal, and now suddenly Jason's not in the best spot.
No. All right, he's going to put down a Festering Mummy and another Doomed Dissenter, tapping his Channeler Initiate for mana there. I believe that's what happened.
Yeah,
So
no.
counter should be at 2.
No, I believe he actually had... No, he had enough mana.
Oh, okay.
He used both the triggers and the Ronus' Monument to pump up his Channeler Initiate. He had 3 left over after the Sandworm.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
All right, we've got a Battlefield Scrounger here for Martin Dang, which, if he's able to exert any other creatures, or that one, in fact, he's able to do some rummaging, discarding, and drawing, which helps in the later stages of the game, if you want to get rid of lands and find relevant spells. Crop Crasher is exerted here, crashing in, saying that Dissenter cannot block. And because of the exert, Martin will loot, pitches an island to draw a card.
Yeah, and Jason, probably happy to just be able to block with this Festering Zombie and trade with the Crasher here. Although he may think that the game's not going to go long enough for the Crasher to ever untap and target something else. Though that's not the case.
The Mummy blocks the Crasher, giving its -1/-1 counter to it, so it goes to the graveyard. Here's Heckma Sentinels, just a little 2/3, but they do get +1/+1 anytime you cycle or discard a card. So handy in something like Martin's deck, which is looking to do that quite a lot.
Absolutely.
So Jason stuck with some larger creatures in his hand. 6 mana available.
Yeah, I mean, he can cast the 1 Greater Sandworm now, thus pumping up his Dissenter and attack for 3 trample damage. And that would likely force Martin to double block, and then he could get the Sure Shot off of the table. And then there's no creature that's able to block unless Martin's able to draw some type of cycler.
Here comes the Sandworm, discounted price because of Ronus' Monument. Trigger from the Monument on the Doomed Dissenter, attacking for 3. Jason's still applying pressure here. Martin Dang's life total pretty low at 6. He probably feels pretty confident now with that 7/7 out on the battlefield. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, which is every creature on Martin's side of the battlefield right now, unless he pumps up that Minotaur Sure Shot.
Yeah, so he would essentially have to leave those 2 men on tap just to be able to block that Sandworm. The other thing that's really scary for Martin is that the Sandworm could get Trample from Ronus's Monument. And when that thing's trampling and has 9 power, ugh.
Gross.
It's disgusting.
So we weren't able to get the Sandworm out with Champion of Ronus, but it made its appearance nonetheless. I really wonder if Jason was able to draft that Champion of Ronus pretty early in the draft and kind of crafted his draft around it, drafting things like Greater Sandworm just to make the best use of it.
Yeah, Champion of Ronus is one of those cards that the first time I saw it, I was thinking, oh man, I should be taking this pretty high. But I've actually been pretty underwhelmed with it when I've had it in my draft decks. I don't love it as a top deck, and even in the early game, sometimes you end up with hands that you don't really have much to put out with it. When it works, it's disgusting. For what
yes,
it's worth.
absolutely.
I mean, it is.
I remember when I saw that card previewed, I just thought, what?
What can I put into play with this?
Here comes the Scrounger. It's been exerted, so Martin's going to rummage again. Jason deep in thought here. Blocking with the Sandworm. Follow-up play here is a Manticore of the Gauntlet. Going to distribute a -1/-1 counter among Martin's creatures. Deal 3 to Jason.
Any creature off the top for Jason here is lethal because he can give his Greater Sandworm Trample, and then the 2 creatures cannot block, and the only creature that would be able to block it is the Manticore.
All right, he's going to go find a land here. Thinning his deck out just a little bit, upping his chances of drawing a creature. Oh, he's got a mountain in there.
Yeah, not only that, but even some way to kill his own Doom Dissenter would be lethal damage because he
Absolutely.
could have that zombie enter the battlefield, at which point the Greater Sandworm would, have trample and additional power and toughness. Looks like Jason drew a spell, so...
He's doing some math there.
Yep.
There it comes. Merciless Javelineer. That is certainly worth a splash.
Absolutely. Really powerful card.
We're going to get that +2/+2 and trample bonus from Ronus' Monument. In comes the Sandworm. Sure Shot is going to pump up just to be able to block it. Potentially.
Oh, so I'm sorry. He did have the Sure Shot to pump, so he's just putting Martin down to 1 here.
2 creatures have to jump in front of that Sandworm in order for Martin to survive.
Yeah, now Jason chose not to attack with the... I'm sorry. So, yeah, Martin unable to find an answer there, and
Jason
takes the
Scosbo
first game.
taking it down. I'm just looking at Scosbo's list here. Merciless Javelineer is the card he is splashing for. He has no other red cards in his deck. Really interesting matchup. We're going to get to see more of it after these messages. coverage of Grand Prix Richmond. Maria Bartholdi here in the booth alongside Jacob Van Lunen. We just saw Jason Scosbo take down Game 1 against Martin Dang. We're going to look in now on Ely Cassis versus Andrew Davis.
Yeah, Ely looks to be in solid control of this game. Andrew's having some mana problems. And Ely's just bashing away. Andrew already down to 6 here. Taking it from those who serve, and Gust Walker and Doom to center, and that's it.
That's it. That's all she wrote. Ely takes down this match 2-0 over Andrew Davis. Ely advancing to 13-2. Another look here at Jason and Martin. Both really great guys.
Yeah.
You don't know, but I do.
I actually don't. Yeah, I don't know either of them that well.
I interviewed Martin for my podcast back
awesome.
at Pro Tour Hawaii. That was pretty fun. Went down there just to hang out. It was awesome. Pro Tour Nashville coming up. Whew.
Nashville's a cool city, too.
I've never been to Nashville.
Oh, man. Good restaurants. I'd be excited
Good
if I were
cowboy
you.
boots.
Apparently there's buy one, get 2 free cowboy boots everywhere in the city from what I hear. Everybody's talking about it. I'm not going to be there. I don't get to get cowboy boots at, 1/3 the price of normal rate.
Whoa, salt.
I
Salt.
don't even own cowboy boots right now. I would.
Players taking a look at their opening hands. Yeah, team coverage is all about getting the 1-for-3 cowboy boots.
Yeah, they're all like pairing off in groups of 3. I guess pair it implies 2 people, but I'm using it.
Jason happy with his hand. Martin's going to have to take a mulligan here. And those sleeves, by the way, custom sleeves that have Martin Dang's name on them.
Ooh.
It's pretty cool. One of the cool things that his team is doing for the Pro Tour.
I like that. He's building the Martin Dang brand.
Yeah. Custom sleeves. That's when you really know you've made it. Going to take a look at his 6. Jason's nickname back home. Excuse booze. All right, there we go. Bloodlust Insider hits the table for Dang.
Yeah, so looking to get off to an aggressive start here. And Jason's deck took a little while to kind of get the engines rolling last game.
It did.
So this could be big.
Oh, here we go. This is a hasty Battlefield Scrounger. Don't believe it was exerted. Martin wants those cards. Jason
He
taking
also
a
wants
look.
to get to attack more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't have to exert, probably don't.
Yeah, here, if Martin needs a 3rd land or something, he is on the mulligan. He may be exerting.
3 p.m. sealed players. Once again, your pairings for the next round are posted.
Oh, there we go.
3 p.m. sealed. Next round pairings are posted.
Pitching that Manticore of the Gauntlet to draw a
so
card.
pitching a 5-drop, probably
Yep.
looking for a land here. Yeah.
Yeah, he has to say go. Jason, I think, thinking about cycling this Wander in Death right now. Just going to draw.
Oh, interesting. Not cycling the Wander in Death in that spot.
Wasteland Scorpion is the play. Passes it back. Do you make that play just if you think the game might go a little longer and you want to get more value out of your card?
Yeah, I mean, in those situations, I think I would definitely make that play.
In comes the Minotaur Sure Shot. Jason could block with a Scorpion here. Are you more incentivized to block or just take it in this situation when you know Martin's a little cramped on lands?
When I know my opponent's cramped on lands, then sometimes I just want to trade off as aggressively as possible, hoping they don't draw them in the coming turns. That changes a bit, though, because Martin has the exert on the Battlefield Scrounger, so he's better at finding lands.
Oh, there we had a Grasping Dunes from Jason, cashing it in to put a -1/-1 counter on that Bloodlust Insider, trying to stop the hasty action from Martin Dang. Trial of Zeal going to take out the Scorpion. Ooh, here we go. Shed Weakness will save that Scorpion right now, giving it +2/+2.
Oh, and there's a reason why Jason didn't want to block with the Wasteland Scorpion. One would have assumed that he would have wanted to trade there, but the thing is that he may have even 2 tricks in his hand, in which case, losing a valuable creature, which he can use those tricks on, just isn't worth it to him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if he chooses to take this damage again, then I'm guessing he may have even another trick in hand.
Oh, looks like he is going to take the trade here.
And chooses to do so with the Battlefield Scrounger, not with the Minotaur Sure Shot. So
Interesting. Martin Dang, meanwhile, has found his 4th land, cashing in here his Evolving Wilds. Jason getting up to 4 mana. We know his deck likes to have a lot of mana. He's got a pair of Greater Sandworms. Just waiting.
as per usual.
No creature, just has to pass the turn back. It's just going to take 2 from this Sure Shot. In comes Emberhorn Minotaur for Dang.
Oh, wow, and no play at all.
No
Not even
play.
a cycle that turn.
Right, well, I see a Chefette Monitor was the draw for this turn. One of those cards that has cycling with a bonus.
Yeah, and Marin representing lethal here with an exerted Emberhorn Minotaur and 2 pumps on the Minotaur Sure Shot. So if Jason can't find some action here, he could just die, especially if he taps out.
Yeah, he just cycled there. Wander in Death, looking for...
Oh, wow. And
Oof.
Martin, I mean, there's not much you play around here, right? Like, are you going to play around Haze of Pollen? I don't think many people would.
Certainly not when you're on 20 life and
Oh, yeah,
also have
that's-
another hasted creature.
Yeah, and that's lethal without exerting, so now it's completely safe.
All right, Skazbo has to scoop him up. Martin Dang ties things up at 1 game apiece here at Grand Prix Richmond.
Yeah, Martin missing that 3rd land drop was in somewhat of a precarious situation, but found his way back in that game, was able to draw a couple lands, and the power of Trial of Zeal, just taking that creature out. And, even through that shed weakness, just the fact that he was able to use that plus the Scrounger to get Jason's board empty. Jason just didn't have anything to do in his early turns and got punished for it. I was quite surprised that he chose not to cycle that Wander in Death when he didn't have action in those early turns.
Yeah, could be. I mean, it could have been that he forgot one of those turns or something like that, but especially that turn when he had 4 mana and didn't do anything.
Yeah. Sometimes also you have an idea of how the game's going to play out in your head, and even though the situation changes, you stick with that particular idea. It's like when, there are a lot of times where, you have a creature that when it enters the battlefield, it pumps something, and you don't play it pre-combat and you attack, and then you realize post-combat, it's still the right play to play it, even though
Right.
it shows your opponent that you made a mistake. It doesn't matter. It's still correct to do it.
Jason here consulting his sideboard, seeing if there's anything that he can bring in against Martin Dang's red-blue deck.
Yeah, so probably trying to make his curve a little bit lower, maybe attempting to take a splash out of his deck,
Yeah, he did have that.
make himself a
single
little
mountain.
more consistent.
Martin Dang's deck, too, fairly aggressive in red-blue, which isn't a deck that we've seen get as aggressive as, say, for instance, a green-white deck, a red-black deck, or a red-white deck, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about aggressive red-blue decks is that you have a lot of reach that you don't have in the other aggressive strategies. When you're playing like white-red or green-red or green-white, you basically have to rely on your creatures. Like when you're going for reach, you're trying to, go into the air, use a card like Mighty Leap maybe, use a pump spell just to finish off your opponent in the end of a game. But when you're playing blue-red, you have a lot of like inexpensive spells that clear the way, cards like Wings of Rebuke. You have cards like Cartouche of Knowledge that can throw like creatures into the air and just, get in for lots of damage out of nowhere. It just seems like an interesting place to be aggressive. And I've seen some really successful blue-red aggro decks in this format that have 3-0 drafts. So it's just a testament to, the versatility of this draft format and how, finding the deck that's most open, where the most powerful cards are available to you in a consistent manner is really the recipe for success here. It's not necessarily trying to draft one particular deck or another.
So some chatter going down in the feature match area. Michael Baranecki and Ben Friedman talking about GP wins and not just getting there. Michael says he's had 4 or 5 X and 3s and called himself a bubble boy.
Oh.
And it's BBD, it turns out, did play versus Saporito. 2-1.
Oh, so BBD joining the ranks of history.
Yes, undefeated.
15-0 Grand Prix performance.
Incredible.
Maybe he can turn it into an 18-0 Grand Prix performance.
That would be epic.
Be something else. History being made here in Richmond, Virginia.
I can't wait to watch. And we're underway here in Game 3 between Jason Skosbo and Martin Dang. Martin's going to go find himself a mountain here with his Evolving Wilds. Jason starting things off with a forest and a Grasping Dunes. What do you think of Grasping Dunes, by the way?
I rarely play deserts. I think if you have, it seems like Jason may have multiple Chafet monitors and things like that in his deck, in which case, they gain a little bit more power. In this matchup in particular, Martin has a lot of 1 toughness creatures that Jason has seen, which makes Grasping Dunes quite strong. Usually they put a big strain on your mana base, though, and it makes it hard to justify playing them. Jason's deck is also pretty mana hungry, so he
doesn't really want to be
doesn't want to
sacrificing.
be sacrificing lands against a deck that is playing a lot of cards that cost 1, 2, and 3.
Here's a Trial of Zeal to take down Jason's Blighted Bat, although the Grasping Dunes does match up pretty well against that Nefcrop Entangler.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting choice now if you continue to develop your board or if you just sacrifice it to get rid of that Nefcrop Entangler while you still can, while Martin's tapped out. While it's not a 3/3 trampler hitting you in the face.
Yeah. Minimize the damage you take from Martin's early plays.
I guess depending on if he has a creature big enough to block. Oh, he's just going to go for it here by playing Ronus's Monument.
That's interesting sequencing there from Jason because, the Ronus's Monument, often you want to play it right away on turn 3, but he needed to get onto the board. He wanted to force Martin into exerting.
And here we have another Emberhorn Minotaur down for Martin Dang, representing quite a lot of damage on his side of the board. Here's a Chefette Monitor, played naturally, 6/5.
That's a big creature.
It's a big lizard. Yeah, he's hoping that this lizard stays in play.
Yeah, and see, the problem here is, and one of the things we're going to see that's so strong about these really aggressive red-blue decks that play very low to the ground is that Martin has access to cards like Winds of Rebuke, and he can just pay 6 mana, and all that 5 mana and the 3 mana that Jason put into that Ronus's Monument, those are kind of invalidated, and Jason's put back an entire turn.
Right.
And then Martin can, just continue crashing away with his creatures.
And here, just like you said, JVL, Winds of Rebuke. Going to send that Chefette Monitor back to Jason's hand. Everybody's going to mill 2. I call this a party mill.
Interesting there. We see an Ancient Crab going to Martin Dang's graveyard. Not necessarily what I would be expecting to be in this super aggressive red-blue deck, but...
Oh, boy. Cartouche of Knowledge coming down on the Nefcrop Entangler. That Grasping Dunes will no longer be able to kill it. And Martin's going to draw a card and just smash in for a ton of damage.
Yeah, and what's especially powerful about that Cartouche of Knowledge in that spot is that Martin knows that Jason now has that Chefette Monitor in hand, and that's likely his play for next turn is to replay that. So by playing that Cartouche of Knowledge, now he set himself up to exert both the Emberhorn Minotaur and the Nefcrop Entangler on the following turn, and that's exactly 9 damage, which is lethal.
Here we go. We've got a Stir the Sands to make 3 zombie creature tokens for Jason.
And that's precisely what he needs in this spot.
Yes, it is. That Nefcrop Entangler coming in the air, thanks to Cartouche of Knowledge. And here's the Emberhorn Minotaur exerted.
Yeah, now this is going to be, something that trades with 2 zombies when all 3 of them block, so.
All right, 2 zombies going away. Nefcrop's damage getting in there. Another Emberhorn Minotaur. Oh, and a Bloodlust Inciter.
Yeah, and this makes the top of Martin's deck very dangerous, especially because he's playing blue, so he has access to flyers in his deck. Jason's got to be really scared because he's already down to 6 life. He now has, this Nefkrop Entangler, which can cut his life total in half on the following turn. And then he even has to find an answer to whatever else Martin draws. I believe these life totals are wrong, by the way. I believe Jason's at 6, if my math is correct.
Bloodlust Insider making the top of Martin Dang's deck very dangerous. I had to do it.
That's beautiful.
All right. Jason here hoping for anything that can get him out of this mess. Chef at monitor, big enough to block.
Yeah, now he's likely going to use his Grasping Dunes on the Bloodlust Insider also.
Yep, there it goes. Just can't leave that thing alive at this state in the game, especially when his life total is so low.
Yep, and that's it. Martin Dang showed Jason a copy of Trial of Zeal, so he's able to attack for another 3 damage with his Nefkrop Entangler and then finish the game off with Trial of Zeal. And that's it. Martin Dang finding himself in...
Look at that smile.
He's so happy.
13-2. What an amazing record here at Grand Prix Richmond. It's got to feel great about that win.
Yeah, you travel across an ocean to be here. And now, finding himself in another top 8 to his name. He's had quite a bit of success over the last couple of years.
We're going to look in here at Robert Kaufman versus Evan Esposito. Regal Caracal on the board for Evan, along with some life-linking cats. Meanwhile, we've got a Heckma Sentinels and an Embalmed Creature in play for Robert. Robert's at 7 right now.
I believe that's a Colossopede at the top of the screen.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. Oh, Commit to Memory.
Oh, my goodness.
Is
Memory
being
is going down.
I haven't seen this happen yet. So what's going to happen is everybody is going to shuffle
Their graveyards and hands.
Into their library.
And then draw fresh new 7.
Nice. The
And
thing about this is Evan gets to play with that 7 first.
Yeah, he gets to untap his mana first, and he also has Robert down to 7 here with a much more impressive board. So it's not unlikely that Evan's just going to be able to kill Robert now that Robert's done that. But it's also possible that Robert had no way to survive the following turn, and therefore just needed to go fishing. And maybe Evan draws a whole bunch of land, and Robert draws a Forest and a Haze of Pollen, and then he's able to untap and make everything go his way.
You with the Haze of Pollens.
Well, a lot of the time you're like, what could happen here for the game not to end? And like the only card that could make the game not end is Haze of Pollen. Not that that makes it a good card.
Certainly better with cycling. Steep
Yes.
cycling cost on that too, 3.
Yeah, that's the one reason why it's not so strong. I think that if that had a cycling cost of 1 or 2, that would be like one of the better tricks of the format for the late game.
Oh, cool.
Not better, but it would make the cut a lot. The cycling 3 really is a hindrance on that.
All right, so both players drawing 7 new cards at this stage in the game has got to just feel exciting no matter who you are. Let's see if Robert can come up with something that's cost 3 or less. There we have it. Illusory Wrappings is going to shrink down that Colossopede to have base power and toughness 0-2. Still facing down an army of lifelinking cats and a Hooded Brawler, which attacks for quite a chunk of damage. And doing it in style with those full art lands.
Yeah, a lot of stuff here in both these players' hands now. Commit Memory makes the late game a lot more interesting.
It sure does. You don't like to top deck? Guess what? I've got a card for you.
Yeah.
All right, have a Jeru's Resolve.
Yeah, and now that's lethal damage. Evan can just attack with all of his creatures and exert the Hooded Brawler, and Robert will be forced to block the one with the most power, but that's still 7 damage coming across.
That must have been a Labyrinth Guardian.
Yeah.
And there we go. There's the handshake. Evan Esposito beats Robert Kaufman here at Grand Prix Richmond.
Yeah, and that's pretty wise of Evan to recognize that the Labyrinth Guardian has that triggered ability that when it's targeted with a spell. So he used the spell, which is, you normally want to use on your own creature, Jeru's Resolve, on his opponent's creature in order to win himself the match and get him for lethal damage.
You can hear some applause, by the way. I'm not sure if you can hear that at home, but we can hear coming over from the feature match area as people congratulate their friends on making the top 8 here, which is a cool thing to hear.
Yeah, a gigantic tournament ending like this.
All right, we're going to take a brief break, but we'll be back with more magic here at Grand Prix Richmond.